The Fortune of the Hills, and the Honest Traveler. Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed who was a poor mountaineer and barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up came a sound from a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Black gold. Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed is a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck, and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools and movie stars. The Beverly Hillbillies. Within the grand confines of their new mansion, the family dynamic remained as lively as it had been in the mountains. Ellie Mae ran through the hallway with excitement in her voice, shouting that she had seen him first. Her brother disputed the claim instantly, saying that he was the one who had spotted the man first. They back and forth with their playful bickering until an authority figure stepped in to demand an explanation. Will one of you please tell me what is happening here? Came their request, followed by a light-hearted threat to toss a coin to settle the matter. There, now I get to tell the story properly, Ellie Mae declared as the confusion cleared. Jed entered the room looking around at the commotion. What is all the racket up here? He asked with a warm smile. Ellie Mae was about to tell him about the remarkable fellow she had just seen down the road. When asked who it was, she revealed that it was the very same fellow who had sold them Central Park in New York, the one and only Honest John Schaefer. Well, doggy, Jed exclaimed in disbelief. You mean to say that Honest John is right here in Beverly Hills? Granny confirmed the news with absolute certainty, calling it the most exciting news of the whole year. She looked over at Jethro, who was laying there half asleep, and told the lazybones to get up because Ellie Mae had just seen their old friend. Jethro rubbed his eyes and sat up, stating that he had seen him too because he was the one driving the truck. Jed asked if they had stopped to talk to him, but they explained that they could not do so. The traffic was too heavy and moving too fast to make a sudden stop. By the time they managed to drive all the way around the block, the man had disappeared from sight. Jed declared that they absolutely had to find him. He was the finest man Jed had ever run into, the true salt of the earth. He certainly deserved his name, Honest John. The family remembered his incredible generosity in New York. He had sold them Central Park, the Statue of Liberty, the Staten Island Ferry, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Empire State Building, and the Algonquin Hotel, all for the total sum of $10,000. To the family, that was what they called a real bargain. What made him even more remarkable was that he turned around and gave them their money back afterward. Jed remembered their emotional farewell in Central Park, where he had told the man that he was just about the nicest fellow they had ever met and that they were deeply proud to know him. At the time, Honest John had said he needed to get going toward Chicago, and Granny had rushed over to say goodbye, wishing him well and telling the young fellow to take care of himself. Honest John had accepted the blessings, claiming he had no real use for all that money anyway, asking what a few $1,000s meant to someone as wealthy as him, and even suggesting they give the funds to the Native Americans at the Algonquin. To the Clampett family, he was truly one of nature's noblemen. Knowing that he was somewhere in Beverly Hills at least twice, Jed wished more than ever that they knew his exact location. Meanwhile, in a completely different part of town, a different kind of meeting was taking place. A man entered an apartment looking for a woman named Flo Schaefer. A voice from inside informed him that Flo had moved away to Australia, but the man recognized the voice instantly and called out to her, identifying himself as Shifty. Flo gasped in surprise, calling him baby and welcoming him back. She immediately asked if the police had a tail on him, but Shifty replied that looking over his shoulder was just a force of habit. It was good for them to see each other again, after so much time. Flo noticed that his wedding ring was missing and asked if he had finally obtained a divorce. Shifty laughed at the idea, saying he would never divorce her because he loved her. When asked where the ring went, he confessed that he had hawked it for $10. Flo considered that a clear profit since he had stolen the ring in the first place. They reminisced about what a great team they used to be and wondered what had split them up. Shifty mentioned her mother, asking where the old bat was, but Flo told him to please be gentle because her mother was gone, though she clarified the woman would be out of prison in 6 months. Shifty asked Flo to sit down because he had a serious confession to make. He warned her that she might hate him for it. Flo assured him that she could never hate him, guessing that perhaps he had met a younger, prettier girl and married her, making him a bigamist, which she was willing to forgive. Shifty said that was not it. Flo then guessed that he had joined a massive criminal organization involved in gambling, rackets, and everything illegal, telling him to relax because he would still be her man. Shifty shook his head, telling her that the truth was much worse. He confessed that he had gone straight and turned honest. Flo reacted with absolute horror, calling him a dirty rat, a swine, and telling him not to touch her. She immediately demanded a divorce, stating that he should be glad her mother was not there to beat him to a pulp. Shifty pleaded with her to let him explain what had turned him honest. Flo covered her ears, saying that kind of talk made her flesh crawl, and ordered him to get out because she could not stand the sight of him. Shifty lamented that none of his old friends would speak to him since he turned honest, and Flo remarked that nobody could blame them because he was clearly sick. She suggested he see a head shrinker to cure him, and Shifty wondered if a psychiatrist could actually make him a crook again. Flo softened slightly, thinking that maybe she could help him shake off this terrible honest hang-up because she was so completely rotten herself, which Shifty took as a beautiful compliment. Back at the mansion, the family continued to hope that they would find Honest John and fetch him home to stay with them. To have a man like that under their roof would be a supreme honor because they viewed him as a living saint. Little did they know Shifty, who was indeed the very same Honest John, was talking to Flo about them. He described them to Flo as simple mountaineers, yokels, and perfect targets to be plucked, yet they were millionaires. It had been the perfect setup for openers when he sold them Central Park right by the pond where Jed had been counting his cash. Shifty recalled how Jed counted his bills 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and remarked on having plenty of walking around money left. Shifty had managed to sell them half of New York, filling his pockets with dough and securing a plane ticket to Chicago. But something unexpected happened. The family got to him. They were so kind, so sweet, so trusting, so honest, and so sincere that their goodness overwhelmed his criminal instincts. Flo told him to stop that disgusting talk and declared that there was only one way to cure his sickness. He had to find those hillbillies and take them for everything they were worth. Shifty admitted he felt he was no match for them because they were too honorable, too loving, too warm, and too tender. Flo threatened to wash his mouth out with soap if he kept praising them. She insisted that he had to con those exact hillbillies again, repeating an old saying from her father about getting back on the same horse you fell off of. She ordered him to get on a plane, go find them, fool them, fleece them, and forget them. Shifty found his old confidence returning, promising Flo that he would lie, cheat, steal, and con them out of every penny. He vowed to show them no mercy, to be cruel, ruthless, and leave them destitute. Flo was thrilled by this display of bad behavior. Shifty then revealed that he had already made his first small heist today by stealing Flo's own necklace back as a joke, which she found wonderfully romantic. At the mansion, Jed asked Granny if the young ones had fetched Honest John home yet. Granny replied not yet, but she was fully prepared for his arrival, wearing her finest outfit because Honest John always admired her appearance and complimented her youthfulness. Jed thought of an idea to locate him. He remembered how close Honest John was with the New York Police Department, recalling how they met him at the airport and drove him around in their own car. In a flashback to their time in New York, the police had given Shifty a 24-hour warning to leave town. Shifty had turned to the Clampetts and explained that New York usually closes promptly at 9 in the evening with all lights out, but due to his personal influence, he had persuaded the police to leave the entire city open and lit up for 24 hours, just so the family could see Times Square, Broadway, and 42nd Street at night. Jed remembered looking out of the airplane that night and seeing the bright lights, believing it was all done as a special favor for them. Based on this, Jed decided to call the local police station to ask if they had seen their prominent friend. Before he could make the call, Shifty walked right through the door. Ellie Mae called out his name, but Shifty playfully pretended to mistake Granny for Ellie Mae, claiming they looked like identical twins. Granny was flattered, and Jed expressed his great pleasure at the reunion. Shifty claimed the pleasure was all his, stating how often he thought of their wonderful times in New York. Jed mentioned that he still felt bad about Shifty giving back the money for the real estate, but Shifty waved it off, saying their friendship transcended mere money. Suddenly, Shifty feigned distress, claiming he had lost his walking around money. Jed reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of cash, asking if this was it, explaining he had found it outside on the stoop. Shifty pretended to be confused by the word stoop, and Jed clarified it meant the little porch out front where he had been pumping his grinding wheel. Shifty thanked him, and Granny noted that anybody but Honest John would have kept the money. Jed insisted that by all rights, Central Park and the other landmarks still belonged to Shifty. Shifty grandly declared that he would donate all of those properties to the city of New York so that everyone could enjoy them for free. Granny was deeply moved, remarking that the man had a heart as big as all their dollars. Shifty then presented Granny with a gift, a pair of beautiful earrings that he claimed belonged to his mother. Granny was so touched, she felt like crying, but Shifty insisted on no tears during such a joyous reunion. Granny headed to the kitchen to put on some coffee, while Jed asked what brought Honest John to Los Angeles. Shifty adopted a serious, noble tone, stating he was there to perform a vital service for humanity. When Jed asked for details, Shifty asked what Jed considered the greatest problem facing the community. Jed answered that it was the smog. Shifty leaped on the answer, declaring that was precisely why he was there. He revealed a grand plan to drill an enormous shaft right through the San Bernardino Mountains and install a giant fan to draw all the smog away from the city. Jed noted that such a project would cost a heap of money. Shifty sighed heroically, saying he had pledged his wealth and his sacred honor to the project, intending to give the mountains to Los Angeles and the giant fan to Burbank and Pasadena. Granny returned and praised the blessed saint of a man for saving them from the pollution. Shifty admitted that the giant fan alone had taken all his cash resources, but he would raise more by selling his war medals, his Nobel Peace Prize, or even selling his own blood for $20 a pint. Jed refused to let him suffer, pointing out that Jed had better than $90 million laying in the bank. Shifty quickly rejected the idea of checks, explaining that names appear on checks and charity is only beautiful when it is anonymous and unknown. He insisted the entire project had to be financed in cash to keep the secret safe. Jed acknowledged that his banker, Mr. Drysdale, did not keep $20 million in cash in the vault, but he promised to go get whatever cash was available. At the bank, Mr. Drysdale handed over a large sack, explaining to Miss Jane that it contained more than $500,000 in cash, which was all the bank could spare at the moment. Jed thanked them and prepared to leave. Mr. Drysdale demanded to know what the money was for, but Jed refused to say, explaining it was a secret project. A comedic argument ensued, with Mr. Drysdale throwing a tantrum and refusing to let the money go unless he received an answer. Miss Jane intervened, suggesting Jed tell him just enough to alleviate his acute withdrawal symptoms. Jed finally conceded, mentioning only that the money was for drilling in the San Bernardino Mountains. Mr. Drysdale immediately assumed Jed had discovered mountain gold and called his real estate broker to start buying up land in that area. Jed returned home with the sack of cash. Shifty was there waiting. Jethro arrived, greeting their guest with a powerful handshake. Jed explained to Jethro that the sack contained over $500,000 to help Honest John get rid of the smog. Jethro was thrilled, thanking Honest John for saving all the little critters, birds, young ones, old folks, trees, and flowers that could barely breathe. Shifty, feeling the familiar pang of guilt from their overwhelming gratitude, told them they were welcome and prepared to make a quick exit. Jed told Jethro to load the money onto the truck and drive Honest John wherever he needed to go, offering more money whenever it was required. Later, Shifty returned to Flo's apartment. Flo was ecstatic, imagining the beautiful shaft through the mountains and asking where he had stashed the $500,000. Shifty described how brilliant he had been, comparing the con job to taking candy from a baby. However, when Flo demanded to see the cash, Shifty quietly confessed that he had given it back. Flo could not believe her ears, shifting from joy to pure rage. She declared she was going to break every bone in his body. Shifty tried to defend himself, explaining that the family was simply too trusting and honest, and their warmth had ruined his ability to steal from them. Flo ordered him to get out of her sight, leaving Shifty caught between his old life of crime and the undeniable, transformative goodness of the hillbillies. Night falls. Darkness closes in. A mystery unfolds. Hallmark Channel introduces a series of original movies. Kelly Martin as Mystery Woman, John Larkin as McBride, and Leah Thompson as Jane Doe. The Hallmark Channel Mystery Movie. Fridays at 9. Y'all come back now. This has been a Filmways presentation.